why do we think that have to suffer and to be unhappy is the real thing?
You know, we're trained to be unhappy. And we've been trained for so long. You imagine when you're a child, right? And you're running around, and you've got so much energy, and you're creating a scandal. Are you creating a scandal? No, you're just having fun. But you're told to stop. You're interrupting. There's something wrong. You know, Dad's in the telephone, or Mum's in the kitchen. Go and behave. So you go and sit down, and then you're good, no? Now you're behaving well. And we're constantly told to be quiet, not to talk, not to feel our emotions, to do better, that we're not good enough. And we've been taught this all our lives. There was always that rigidity. You know, I remember when I was young, and I had very progressive parents. Very progressive, very open-minded, from a very open-minded society. But there was always this no. You know, if I said, oh, I want to learn guitar, they give me a violin. If I started singing, they say, don't sing like that. Don't sing pop songs. Sing this. Like there was always this negativity towards what came naturally. And as we start to grow up and we start to explore different things, because children are inquisitive and have different urges, and we're told not to do that. That's bad. That's a sin. So it's this constant thing where we think to be serious is to be good. To have fun is like we're doing something wrong. And we keep hiding what we're doing. And the same thing happens with food. It happens at school. It happens all the time, to the point where we start to make ourselves smaller and smaller and smaller so that we fit in. And if we go against that, we're rebels, we're bad, we're troublemakers. If we have our own opinions, we're rebels. If we don't want to do what we're told, because we're not fitting in. And we don't get rewarded. We don't get rewards. If you're quiet, you're a good boy, you get a reward. If you do a drama, you're bad, you don't get a reward. And the thing goes on and on and on. Is it our parents' fault? No, because it happened to them. But we're actually taught to be miserable and to stuff everything and to be serious is admirable. That's good. So we lose the joy. We're so worried about being disapproved that we don't feel free to be ourselves. And this varies, no? It varies from person to person. It varies from child to child, and family to family. But slowly, we start to be suppressed. And life is a celebration. It should be fun. It should be a game. It should be joyful. It should be full of love and giving and abundance. But we're taught the opposite. We're taught to use our heads and not our hearts. You can't trust your heart, but you can trust your head. If you're intelligent, you can trust your head and you will do well. So this is why whenever we're really enjoying ourselves, we always think that something's going to go wrong, that it can't possibly be true. And catch your head and let that go. Let that idea go. Because life's very short and it has to be enjoyed. It has to be enjoyed to the maximum. And that comes from consciousness. That joy, that peace, that flow, that appreciation. All of that comes from consciousness, the experience of love. Love's always joyful. Love's always joyful.
If awakening is not a jump in consciousness and is bit by bit, how you can move, advance faster?
You know, if you're waking up, if you're going to wake up, you have to let go of everything and trust completely. And so if you can do that, in this moment, you will wake up. But we have so many attachments, so many grooves, so many limiting beliefs, so many fears, that it's a process. And this process, for me, is the fastest thing that exists, the Isha system. I've made it so simple, so direct, no belief system, no dogma, just facets and movement. Being in the present moment, letting go of what's not real. Becoming consciousness in action. And as we start to let go, we start to stabilize an experience of what I call perpetual consciousness. And once you have that experience, anything's possible. Because consciousness, yes, jumps. It's not like this. It's not like you're going to the top of the mountain and it seems interminable. You're never going to get there. Oh, I'm never going to get there. It's not like that. It's like a lot of walls. And then all of a sudden, boom, they drop. And you jump. Consciousness is a jump. So as we liberate everything internally, we start to find this internal security, which gives us the courage to keep letting go, to keep walking through our fears, to keep moving forward. Because it's like you find the elixir of life, no? And you want more joy, more love, more freedom. It's only natural. Because once you've had a taste, that's it. You can't forget it. Why? Because it's who you are. You came with it. You've always been that. And there's some yearning in your heart to reunite with that love, that freedom. And everything else that's on the surface, everything else we think we want, bit by bit, becomes so unimportant because you found something so real so tangible. And this is why it creates fear, because you have to let go of what's not real. And you have to start living on the edge, you know? And that's the greatest moment. Because that's when life becomes an adventure. Every step is into the unknown. You'll see. Most of you have just started. And you'll have expansions. You'll be like, oh, I understand. And then you'll have contraction. It's like, oh, this is rubbish. What am I doing here? Why aren't I in Cancun? God, this is so boring. If I listen to that woman say, go deeper, she can go deeper. And you'll see this too, because there's always this contradiction between the head and the heart. But at some moment, there's a shift. And you start to live in the heart and witness the head. You know, it's a funny thing, you know, because the head's so strong, so conditioned. But even for someone as brilliant as Einstein, when he was dying, he realized that there was nothing greater than love. Not his theory of relativity, nothing, because he couldn't explain love. And he realized that because he couldn't explain love, he couldn't negate God, because it had to be something, because he had experienced love and he couldn't explain it. So even the most brilliant of minds, and he had the most brilliant mind. Imagine, he was using 12%. And we use like 3, you know. Some of us less. 5%. And it's like that. The heart's a much bigger brain. Why? Because it's universal. It's not independent. This is independent. This is universal. This contains everything. Everything.
When did my ego was born, and how do I let go of it?
It's a funny thing now. It's like it's an entity that creeped into my body. And now I want to get rid of it. But I don't know how to extirpate it. I don't know how to get rid of it. You know, I always use the same comparison or analogy or whatever you want to call it. And that is, I call the ego like the shell of an eagle's egg. And it's holding something that's so immature, and it doesn't know the greatness of what it is. It's our personality. It's the little person you created so that you could play this game and so that people would love you. It's full of masks. It's full of lies. It's full of contradictions. It's full of fear. But it's not bad. It's protecting something that it doesn't know, that hasn't matured. But as your consciousness starts to mature, you start to perceive the futility is the ego. And you start to let it go. Because it becomes too small. It becomes like you're in this little box. And you're having to maintain an image that just doesn't fit you anymore. You're too big for it. And it's full of deceit, lies, and then bit by bit, you start letting it go. And you start to be real. But don't fight with the ego. Just demonstrate truth. Because as you talk truth, the ego starts to dissolve. When you become vulnerable and expose your true nature, it just starts to dissolve because you don't need it anymore. So don't make it your enemy because it served you well. But now you can say goodbye. You know, it's like little kids. They walk around with a little blanket, you know, sucking it. Are you going to use that all your life? You're going to take it to your job interview? Are you going to take it to your wedding? Before you kiss your bride? You're going to be sucking on a blanket? No. You look ridiculous, no? And it's the same thing with the ego. It's something for children. It gives you a false sense of security. But when you mature, when you become responsible, when you become authentic and genuine, you put away childish things. You put away childish things. Yes, and that's the difference between the consciousness of a child that's so pure and so divine. It's not mature. And then we mature and we go away from that experience, and then we let go of the ego and we become maturity with the experience of consciousness. Full circle, but with a different experience. And it's all valid. And it's all important. All of it's important. Because it's the human experience. And it's perfect exactly as it is.
Can you talk about the importance of healing the relationship with our parents?
You know, it's what I was talking about in the beginning. Because we actually feel like victims to our parents. Because we feel controlled. We could never be ourselves. We were never free. And even though we love them, or sometimes we don't, but there's always resentment. Because we were forced to do something that maybe we didn't want to do. Maybe we got a career we didn't want to get. Maybe we married someone we didn't want to marry. Maybe we weren't free to be ourselves. In extreme circumstances, maybe we were abused. Lots of different things happen. And this is what creates our human experience. This is what creates our ego. So the ego is always based in duality, the extreme opposites. Love, hate, there's always the two extremes. And when we go deep inside, we start to see the resentment we have with our parents. That they controlled us, that they're still controlling us, and even after they're dead, they're still controlling us because we have become our parents. And we have to love every aspect. And we have to let go the judgments. Because ultimately, they're judgments with ourselves. And you'll feel this connection with your parents that's so unconditional. And that's when you know that you're loving yourself unconditionally. It's not that they necessarily become your best friend or the person you most admire. But that resentment, that need to fight, the need to be right, leaves. And you start to surrender and really appreciate who they are. Yeah, and this is what happens as you expand consciousness. You start to see the perfection, and you also understand. You know, because when we're very small, our parents are God. And then we start to see the incoherency. We start to see that they're not Papa Noel. And gradually, we pull them off the pedestal, no? And we have to heal that. Yes, and then we'll just experience love and appreciation. And the aspects of them that we carry, that we repeat, we can let go of if they don't serve. So it's very important to heal that relationship, because it's the ground relationship. And it's easy to heal. It's easy to heal. You just have to love.
I would like to know how you develop these programs. And if we have to touch really very deep, to be able to get to a radical change.
Yes. You know, you have to let go of what's not real. You know, I started to go in, and I thought I had this idea of who I was. Because, you know, I had my image. I knew who I was. I knew where I came from. I knew what I did. I thought I was pretty confident, powerful. I always did whatever I wanted because I was very focused. Blah, 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 blah. And then when I started to go in, I started to see the fear, but incredible fear of not being approved, not being good enough. Because I was adopted, I always thought I was going to be abandoned. And I saw that everything I did was to prove that I had worth. That I had worth. But it was all fake. And nothing was ever good enough. And I did a lot. I achieved a lot. But it was never good enough. And that fear of abandonment, it was like my Achilles tendon, no? It would bring me to my knees. And I'd compromise everywhere. I always played small, so people felt okay. And when I went in, all this started to come up. And I started to cry and cry and cry and cry. And before that, I never felt anything. And I had this voice in my head. So yes, you have to go in. And you have to remove all that abandonment that's within you. And it's sad. Or it's angry. There's many things within you. And you have to look at them. And you have to take responsibility. and let everything go. And then your true essence, your true energy, and the voice of omniscience starts to move through you. You start to listen to yourself and you go, oh, that's the truth. So all of my system came from within me. All of it. Because it was the steps I did to get to this point. And this is what I teach. The facets, letting go of the emotions, taking off the masks, speaking the truth, exposing our fears, feeling, being vulnerable, living in your heart. They're the natural actions of love. They come from love. So the system's just that. It's the actions of love. And I had lots of teachers, but not a specific guru. But I always had teachers, no? And I always listened to everyone. But ultimately, everything came from within me.
How to move beyond feeling less and the deep sadness I feel with the fear to be rejected?
You know, the first thing is you have to see that program. Because it must be driving you crazy, no? Because you've constantly got that thought. Always worrying about what people think, whether they're going to reject you, not being real, always hiding. It's like a form of self-torture. And every human does that on some level, different levels. And we have to catch that. And that is for the facets. Love creates me in my perfection. Love creates me in my perfection. I see that thought, I feel that fear, love creates me in my perfection. And if it's so extreme, you need to do it in a mirror. And look in that mirror. And look at your eyes. And repeat the facet. And initially, it will be difficult. Initially, your voices will go crazy. But bit by bit, it will become easier. And the more you unify, more will start to leave. More insecurity will leave. And it will start to be replaced with a silence. We're looking for that silence within us, beyond the rantings of the mind. You know, I think of the movie Why Walk When You Can Fly, and all of those people walking in the forest, no? All thinking different things, like ghosts. And that's how we live, with these voices in our heads working against us. And we have to see them and not empower them. Connect. Move.
How can I finish a toxic relationship I have and I'm feeling I'm dying within of impotence and pain?
By loving you. More you love you, less you want the toxic relationship. More you cultivate love, you move away from that. Because you start to deserve more. You start to want more. What is the toxic relationship? It's like sticking heroin in your arm or punching yourself in the face. As you start to love yourself, do you keep doing that? Do you keep punching yourself in the head? No, you start to stop. And that's the only cure. You have to get to some point where you become the most important thing. Not the kids, not the society, not the work, but you. What's important? My relationship with myself. That's what's important. My relationship with myself. And that's what you start to work on. It's not that you have to stop anything. It will fall naturally. It will fall naturally because it's not serving. It's like any addiction. Puffing on cigarettes, drinking too much, whatever it is you do that is not loving yourself, it will just start to fall away. It will just start to fall away. So just keep doing that and being true to yourself.
What is ignorance?
Ignorance is our robotic responses to everything. The things we do that are destructive, that are based in fear, that we do as a collective consciousness, that are not coming from unconditional love. It's all coming from that place. Ignorance. Because if people were conscious, they become the actions of love. Love doesn't kill. It doesn't abuse. It doesn't steal. It doesn't destroy the planet. It doesn't abuse. It doesn't go to war. Love doesn't do these things. Ignorance does. And ignorance is fear. That's all it is. And it's so robotic and so emitted in our systems, and it's so controlled by our programs. It's like we're out of control. We're always defending, we're always fighting, we're always arguing, we're always pushing love away, we're not trusting. And all of this is the behaviours of ignorance. Because love is the opposite. It's open, it's innocent, it's giving, it's forgiving. This is love. So it's just that. It's just our programs. And of course, the head of the program is our ego. Yay!
Come visit our webpage for books, movies, and our wonderful retreat centers. Isha's simple yet powerful system is transforming lives around the world.